Do you find it tricky to cover all your clients' grey hair, or maybe you DIY colour your hair at home and you always find that the greys get the better of you? Well, keep on watching because we have all the tips and tricks in this video for 100% grey coverage. Hello and welcome to the world of Craig. Yes, that's me, I'm Craig, and this is my channel. Yes, my channel where we get into all things hair and sometimes a little bit of beauty. You may notice in the background there might be some festive lights. There are some festive bits and pieces. There's a festive bear over there, and I've got some other bits and pieces, a snow globe in the background if you can see that too. It's been keeping me going. I'm going to be totally transparent. I have just left the salon that I rent a chair in for 11 years, or have done for 11 years, and I'm moving to a new salon to rent a chair. I've been very busy outside of the salon with things that you don't see. I do a lot of session work. I do a lot of stuff that's special events, television. I've just done the MTV EMAs, which is all great. I have a fantastic time and I work with the most amazing people, but it has been a lot. So I was sitting writing the notes for this video because lots of you have asked me recently about grey coverage and how to get the most grey coverage. So I was sitting writing notes for this last night, just there at about midnight before I went to bed after a very long last day in the salon that I've been in for all that time. So it's kind of emotional times, good times, lots of stuff to process. But anyway, just sharing that with you because the community over here, all of you lovely peeps over here are so important to me that I felt like I wanted to share it. But moving on, let's talk about grey coverage. This video answers many of your questions and also gives you loads of top tips for grey coverage, whether you're a hair professional and you see clients or you do your own hair at home. Now it makes sense to start this video by saying this. Some grey hair is much more resistant. That just is what it is as the aeroplane flies overhead. Some grey hair, you will not get 100% opaque coverage. We're going to talk about the types of coverage, types of products, what you can do later on in the video, but I just want to get this in at the very beginning. I've had quite a few questions and comments recently from people saying, I want my grey to be 100% opaquely covered. Well, sometimes that might not be possible. I haven't seen a lot of that in my 37 years as a hair colourist and a hairstylist. But sometimes that is the case, and that might be that, the hair gods, if they exist, that might be their way of telling you that you're not supposed to have 100% coverage. Yes, I know that's frustrating. Yes, I know there are a lot of myths about how you can get opaque coverage using any product. We'll talk about those later. But sometimes it just is what it is, and, nothing's going to help with that. You can't always get 100% opaque coverage on grey hair. Moving on. Now we've got that out of the way, let's start with a bit of science because we know how much I and a lot of you really love science. How does permanent hair colour work? Well, permanent hair colour goes through an oxidization process, okay? You mix the permanent hair colour, which is normally a cream or a gel, depending on what you're using. There are many different sorts, with an oxidant, which is peroxide, okay? Once you mix that together, there is a chemical reaction and the oxidant opens the hair's cuticle. Cuticles don't open and close, shut like a door or a window, they don't, but it does raise the cuticle slightly so that the permanent colour molecules can get into the hair and then they become quite large, so they get locked into the cortex of the hair, and the oxygen release effectively replaces your natural hair colour. I have had a lot of comments recently of people saying, oh, by the way, I am going to make a video comparing ash-based home colours for all of you DIYers out there. So get excited for that one because I know a lot of people really want to see that. But I've had a lot of people commenting and saying, all colours I use make my hair really warm. Well, they will, because that oxidization process basically replaces your hair's natural colour with those colour molecules. So as those colour molecules fade over time, you start to see the warmth that is created by the oxidant. So that's how permanent hair colour works. Now let's talk about, and if you Google how permanent hair colour works, there's lots and lots of science, but I like a bit of science, but I don't want to confuse anybody. So you can Google that and have a look. It is fascinating to think that that's what happens. And obviously grey hair doesn't have any melanin molecules in it. So when you're colouring grey hair, you're not replacing the colour pigment, you're just adding it. So that's sometimes where you get a more translucent result. Right, now let's talk, enough science. Let's talk about the different sorts of hair colour. Now, this is important, and it's like everything in life. Any product that you buy, any service that you have really with a hair professional or with anybody that you go to, not all things are created equally. So that means lots of different brands will give you different results. Whether you're a hair professional, I have used many different permanent hair colours, excuse me, over the years. I have been using Colourist, which I love the results of, but I have also used things like, I used to use chromatics in Redken, which I really didn't enjoy. I have got friends that use things like Kenra, which is, extremely opaque. So lots of different professional hair colours will give you different results. The same goes for the things that you buy in the chemist that you might call box dye, that I call home hair colour. They will also give you different results. We're going to get very specific about types of hair colour in a second, but I just wanted to make it very clear that they're not all the same. You've got things like Nice and Easy, which is a Clairol product, which is made by Weller. Weller make Colourist. Colourist is the biggest, most successful hair colour brand in the permanent hair colour that professionals use in the world. So the chances are that Nice and Easy, that is made by Clairol, will be similar in technology and results to that. Let's just reiterate here, I do have a whole playlist on box dyes. The hair colour brands are not trying to have you, they're not trying to stitch you up, they're not trying to ruin your hair, I get so many comments. I had a comment the other day that said, home hair colours are toxic, and no, they're not. They're just a different product, and you're not getting it done by a professional, and they're not mixing different things together. So what I would say is if you really do have a problem getting that grey coverage that you specifically want, we'll talk about more of that in a second, just in the next clip. So much information to get across. Then I would suggest that you test different things out. Always make sure that you patch test when you're going to use any new permanent hair colour. Always follow the specific product, whether it's a pro or a home use product. Hair professionals, you must patch test your clients. You really must. I don't do any hair colour without patch testing the client for that particular product. But if you use one brand and you find that you're not getting the results that you want, get the rep in, or buy yourself, if you're a pro, buy some different hair colour and test it out. On a family member or a friend, or find a model. And if you're doing your own hair at home and the colour that you've been using isn't giving you the coverage, I bet you there is something out there that will give you more coverage. And I did a bit of research. I do a lot of research before I film these in the dead of night whilst I'm eating my dinner, at like midnight. And I did some research, and I did find out that as far as the drugstore goes, what you might buy to use at home, there aren't really many products that offer extra coverage, which we're going to talk about in a second, and that extra rich or super opaque, but I do have some top tips for you as well. But there will be things that will differ. For example, the L'Oreal Excellence and the Preference that you buy to use at home, they will be more opaque because they will be more like Majorelle, which is the L'Oreal professional product, which in my opinion is more opaque than something like Colourist. So it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. And just remember that no two hair colouring products, whether it's pro or what you buy at home, are exactly the same. They won't be. They will be very similar to the pro brands if there's something that makes a drugstore brand and a pro brand, but they won't be the same as the other, as in Clairol isn't the same as a L'Oreal product. The end. Just to mention very briefly that within pro hair care lines, and if you're a hair professional that does a lot of colour, watching this, does a lot of grey coverage, you will know lots about this already, but a lot of the pro hair care lines have grey coverage shades that are double bases, or that are extra pigments, or that are ultra rich. So they are lines of hair colour, permanent hair colour, that are designed specifically for grey hair. Interesting, I have worked a couple of times. I've done some freelance research and development. Those products, those, you know, double zeros or the double N's or the extra riches, whatever you want to call them, they all have different names. Of course they do. They're all from different brands. They were developed for baby boomers. So they were developed for people where their hair they were experiencing more grey and they wanted to get very, very good coverage. I don't use those products at all. I don't like double N's, double zeros, extra bases, extra riches, lots to say. I don't like them. I don't like the opacity. They are very opaque. And that's because if you remember the science bit at the beginning, the dye molecules are really, really tiny. They're very small and they really flood the inside of the hair and they give a very solid opaque coverage. You might be a hair professional and you might love those, but I personally don't like them. I like a much more translucent result. So if you're a hair pro and you're struggling, getting your clients want very, 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 very opaque, very, you know, very solid, very coloured, they don't want to see any grey, they might be for you, and they are often something you can mix in with your other formulas from that line to get more coverage. Not my preference, but they might help you. And just to reiterate again, they don't really exist in the drugstore. I'm not quite sure why that is, because I think there would be quite a big market for them. But maybe I should tell somebody that. But I just think that maybe someone's watching this. Hello, if you are. But it just is what it is. But if you are a hair pro and you want to offer extra coverage, there might be something to look at. Yes, I have so many tips for getting great coverage when you're covering grey hair. Oh yes, that I have my iPad because I have a long list and I don't want to forget any or miss any, and it's been a very long month. So first of all, whether you're a hair pro or you're doing your own hair at home, always follow instructions. If you leave something on less, remembering that permanent hair color is a process, that oxidizing process. If you don't leave something on long enough, it won't deposit enough of those color molecules to have the lasting power. And for the same reason, you can process permanent hair color for longer, because it doesn't stop working. It doesn't have a built-in clock like people tell you that it does. But just remember that it will go darker and deeper and it will look more opaque, regardless of the brand, if you leave it on for longer. But that can give you extra coverage, but always follow the instructions. And if you're doing your own hair at home, please, please, please follow instructions. I've had a lot of questions recently, comments on the other app, yeah, the one that begins with a T and a T. Nearly said it then. And people saying, I've coloured my hair and I wanted it to be temporary, but I've coloured it with a permanent colour and it's just not fading. Well, it probably won't because it's a permanent colour. Anyway, I've just put on here that no tint stops depositing. So the longer you leave colour on, the more it will deposit, but that might mean it will be deeper and darker. Apply plenty of product. If you have thick hair and you're doing it yourself, I would use several boxes. If you're a hair pro and you're really conscious of how much a product costs, because goodness knows professional products are going up and up and up in price. I can't believe how much the brands keep, increasing their pricing. They're making a lot of money out of us, aren't they, hair pro? Yes, they are, aren't they? But make sure you apply lots of product because that is part of the grey coverage process, okay? I do have a video on here about if you're doing your hair at home on how to get the best from, box dye yourself. And of course, there's my shop up videos and I do talk about home hair color in those as well. There's a couple that feature just home hair color. You will call it box dye. Loosely, what you can do if you're a hair pro or doing your hair at home, loosely cover the head with either cling film, cling wrap, glad wrap, whatever you call it, or very loosely with a plastic cap. Don't tighten something so it's really airtight because you need the oxygen in order for the colour to work. But body heat, incubation, very gentle incubation, not a heat source in my opinion, even if the brand says that that's okay, but very gentle body heat incubation can really help with coverage. It can be a really good thing if someone's hair is a little bit more resistant. This is a good one. Higher peroxide is not better. You really only ever need to use up to 20 volume in order to, get through the cuticle and deposit that pigment in the hair. I get asked all the time, I'm using home hair color, can I mix it with a higher peroxide? No, absolutely not. I really wouldn't advise doing that. I'm not saying that to be mean, I'm just trying to safeguard you, and you don't need so much energy. Any sort of hair color that's permanent is an energy exchange, and more peroxide, higher peroxide is not better. You want it to be efficient and not damage your hair. And then I've got down here, I've also got on here to use an N. So if you're buying, so here we go. If you're buying colour from the drugstore, or if you're a professional, if you want to get more coverage, generally an N or a 0, so there is going to be a video coming up on what the numbering systems and the lettering systems are, but if you buy an N or a 0, then that will generally have more base in it. Okay, so that will give you more coverage. If you buy a fashion colour that's like a red, an R, or a 4 or a 5, that will generally give you very bright results on grey hair because there's no existing pigment. So stick to the basis. I know you might want bright hair and that's completely great, but if you want the coverage and you don't want it to be translucent, N's or 0s are generally the way to go. And then last but no means least, please don't listen to myths. Don't look at myths on Reddit in the dead of night. Don't look at myths on Pinterest or any other social platform. Get your advice from a source that has done their research, aka me, because I've been doing it for nearly 40 years, or from the brands themselves. There's a lot of great information on home hair color brands out there on their websites, and also pro brands. Reach out to a pro brand if you're a hair professional and ask them about these things, and they will give you their direct line that the chemists have formulated the products, so it's all good. So that's it for our deep dive into how to get the grey coverage that you want. I thought this was going to be a really short video. I think when I sit to edit, it might be quite a long one. But as always, if you found it helpful or simply enjoyed it, you know exactly what to do. You liking this or sending it to a friend, sharing it with a friend, means that my content will get out to more people. And that's what this channel, my channel, is all about. It's all about you. And it's all about everybody having the best hair they can and helping hair pros to be the best they can and the most successful. And you DIYers, getting you the best hair that you've ever had. I also have an Instagram, which is on screen now. It's not The World of Craig, it's Craig's World of Hair. You can see my hair day to day over there. There's lots of short form content, etc., etc. A huge thank you for watching this, and if you've got to the end of the video, you all take lots of care, and I'll see you all in the next one.